it's not surprising that solving, sort of replacing centuries-old trust networks with computer code is a difficult task. It's a complicated issue. That's not surprising, right? This kind of social trust networks that you and I build as we interact with people, those are things that humans are we've evolved to understand those and how they work and be very good at sort of walking the trust network. When you try to replace that with computer code, it's like a fascinating, like really important technological development, but it's going to be complex.
This is Horizons, stories about what's next in the world, powered by Compass Data Centers.
Having cryptocurrency be the way that we buy our groceries every week was the initial goal. I think that's actually unlikely to happen in the near term, which doesn't mean that cryptocurrency isn't a massive success. It has been. But I think it's a misnomer when we call it cryptocurrency. These are not, in the near term, going to replace bank balances and paper dollars. But that doesn't mean they're not valuable. They are assets. There are subsets of the cryptocurrency world that are trying to solve other problems. They're not an asset, or they're less like an asset. They're trying to solve other problems. They're trying to solve cross-border payments problems. They're trying to provide liquidity in certain very specific markets. Those cryptocurrencies then look less like assets. They look more like financial innovation. They look like startups. They happen to have a cryptocurrency that greases the wheels of the project that they're trying to engage in or the problem they're trying to solve. But they look more like startups. They look, they're like, we want to solve the cross-border payments problem, or we want to provide liquidity in this very specific market where there traditionally has not been very much liquidity. And those kinds of cryptocurrencies and the groups associated with them look like a Silicon Valley, startup that's doing other kinds of startup problems. So what cryptocurrency, I think the goal, when we think about it as currency, as replacing currency, there's just a technological kind of intellectual problem. When Bitcoin currently is trading in the mid-30,000s, it got as high as into the 60,000s. We're not going to buy apples with something where one unit of it costs $35,000, right? The number of units that you need is so small to buy an apple. Like that doesn't make a lot of sense. Now, there are other things. There are cryptocurrencies that are explicitly tethered to the US dollar, so they trade approximately one for that. That might be used in some of those transactions. But typically what we've seen over the last 5 years is that most of the financial innovation has not been in the space of payments. There's been some innovation in the space of payments, but a lot of it has been in the space of asset market development, different ways to trade, different ways to engage in other financial market needs that people have that are not how do you pay for your groceries. So while originally the goal was this is going to be a currency that replaces dollars, like most technological innovations, or like many technological innovations, the use case which turned out to be most relevant and most useful for lots of people was not the original use case that people thought of. But this is the story of lots of innovation, right? The thing that you end up... Now, that's not to say that at some point there might be some improvements and some technological improvements that allow for more of a currency kind of use for this. But at least in the last 5 years, what we've seen is that there are important problems that cryptocurrency is solving that are not traditional currency problems. It's actually good at doing other things that may not have to do with whether I can buy my groceries with it or pay my rent. The beginning of cryptocurrency was kind of a combination of these sociological ideas about sort of wanting to be decentralized, wanting to cut out the middleman in various financial settings, and then the ability to kind of apply these computer science problems to that set of problems was what sort of came together to become cryptocurrency. So a couple of things will happen in the next 5 years. The first one is, as there is more and more participation in these markets, the really, really dramatic left tail events where it loses 90% of its value, those will decrease in frequency. Now, there may still be some events like that, but they're going to be much less frequent than they were the first 5 to 7 years of this cryptocurrency craze or excitement. As there's more and more market participation, those left tail events will go down. We'll also start to see, as regulation is catching up with the technological improvements that came with cryptocurrency, we're going to start to see market structure changes. I think the future of innovation in the next 5 to 10 years in the cryptocurrency world are market-specific coins that are solving a specific set of problems. So we have seen this, for example, in cross-border payments, that there are sets of coins that exist and are really targeted on, we want to solve this problem of making cross-border payments cheaper. It's insane that if you and I were banks in the US, I could send you $50 million and it would cost less than $1 and happen instantaneously. If you and I are family, one of us is in Mexico, one of us is in the US, and I want to send you $100, it's going to cost me between $3 and $7 to do that. That's crazy. And so there exist specific markets and financial needs that individuals have, and you will start to see cryptocurrency applications of currently existing cryptocurrencies or new cryptocurrencies that will come about basically to solve these very specific sets of problems. It's not exactly clear what those will be. They might be things like specific international trade problems that individuals have, or they might be insurance problems related to communities or families or others that the financial innovation will sort of allow people to find uses for the technology underlying cryptocurrency to solve these problems that previously had more expensive solutions or no solution at all. And I think that's where the real innovation is going to happen. I think it's unlikely, like I mentioned before, it's unlikely that a cryptocurrency is going to come along and all of a sudden we will all decide, like, okay, this is our money now. That's not where the real innovation is going to happen, but the innovation will happen and has a lot of potential in these specific use cases where finance has either thought it's not worth it for us to jump into this, or we don't have the technology to jump into this, or something like that, and that's the place where we're going to see these cryptocurrencies really take off.